Next up we have Absol. So Absol is just a B tier unit. So we have 6 again. I mean not 6. Sorry. We're gonna have orange and white emblems. Items attack weight, razor claw, scope lens. Ideally, moveset is either Night Slash, Psycho Cut, or Pursuit and Sucker Punch. Your ability increases the critical hit rate. It's pretty good in 1v1s if we're talking. Oh yeah, 1v1s I believe was going to be Night Slash and Psycho Cut, and Pursuit and Sucker Punch was good for like more enemies if I'm not mistaken. Your Unite move essentially is nothing too special. You pretty much go invincible for just a little bit, do a couple of hits with those who are in your Unite move, and then you shove them depending on where your claws land. There's three different claws that'll shove the enemy back. But yeah.
Oh, sorry. If you're still going, by all means, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm done. I just like
okay.
give some up.
Yeah, I think Sucker Punch has just come to shown that it is probably the worst move of its 4 main moves. Pursue is mixable with Psycho Cut, I'd say. Nowadays, as playing Absol, I do use Pursuit Psycho Cut, all for the fact that Pursuit is probably the best option you can get to mix with Draining Crown. Actually, and Absol is one of the very few mons that can actually benefit from Draining Crown, due to Pursuit being counting as a boosted attack. So,
I know that. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I started running more. I think another friend of ours, shout out Yuji, the only other person I know that uses Pursuit and Draining Crown. Pursuit does make it a boosted attack. So if you manage to get like the sweet spot, which is like behind the back of your opponent, that Draining Crown healing is very noticeable. It is very noticeable. I cannot stress this enough. You see it because not only is it a boosted damage, it is always a sure crit as well. So take advantage of that while you can. The cooldown reduction is beautiful on it because it's basically a chase down move. Add Psycho Cut to the mix. That move is doing crazy amount of damage. I think you can get all 3 Psycho Cut hits onto Pursuit booster attack, which makes you go crazy healing. I think you become like a very good self-sufficient user, making you not having to use a support as often for healing. So you don't have to really see yourself as comfy as much. I still remember back in the day when Fluffy Tail Absol was one of the biggest things ever, and I really hope we don't have to go back to that meta ever again.
No, that's fine. We got better players. We got better, not players. We got hell no, not better players. We got better mods that can solo the objectives, thankfully.
Exactly. But I will say, Absol's Unite is very good in terms of like long lasting. Gives you very good coverage of a certain area. And you go invincible as well. High damage. I hardly see the Fluffy Tail play comes out, but like you see it every like once in a blue moon. But it can sometimes still secure. But I wouldn't rely on it too much. I will recommend all crit build if you do go orange, because you just want to make sure you get your crit rate up all the way, because even if say you don't get the sweet spot on Pursuit, you can still get critical hits on Absol no matter what. Like this thing has super luck. It already has like a 25% innate for crit. Add its already boosted crit rate as it is. Give it scope lens, razor claw. Give it the crit rate emblems. This thing probably might just be critting 24/7, and you're gonna get high crit rate damage off of it. So
yeah, this thing can,
as you will.
This thing can definitely headhunt supporters in certain scenarios, which is crazy.
For sure.
And then that's pretty much Absol in a nutshell. A pretty solid mod actually, compared to the 3 that we currently have here. It's kind of scary. Next up, we're gonna is Zero Aura C tier. So we'll discuss in a sec. Again, with the items, attack weight, razor claw, float zone, or you can run weakness policy. I've seen a few players run that and they do get away with it. It's kind of it's very iffy. I know it sounds wild to say weakness policy, but I think Zero Aura out of all the speedsters is probably the tankiest one. I want to say, because everything else here is like really squishy, but it's not even like that much tankage, like maybe like 5% more, and that's why you can make use of weakness policy. But builds are gonna be orange and white. Wild Charge Spark is going to be is what I've seen players run. Provides a fast damage, picking up easy knockouts, but the combo I feel like is a little bit harder to perform. At least just for me it was. Other players can do it, pop it off real easily, and then it becomes annoying as hell. You feel it looks like you're invincible. You're not though. You can still do damage, but you have to wait for after he's done doing the whole zing zang zoom shit, which is a fucking pain, because by the time he gets the knockout, he heals a little bit. He heals from the kill he did to you, so that's it. His Unite move increases damage when the target is inside the ult. So in other words, he'll place his fist on the ground. It's like a homing attack essentially of thunderbolts. It'll hit the target, and then a little blue ring is formed. If you and the opponent are in the ring, and your boosted attacks are boosted. I had a stroke. In other words, they do more damage because yeah, that was a mouthful. Boosted. But yeah, that's Zero Aura. Any thoughts?
I will say, Discharge is still useful in my opinion. You don't see as much though, don't get me wrong, but though it is still good. I've seen users put up like solid numbers. Like I'm talking about 70-80k damage, which is still good. Volt Switch is like skill based. And I will say this for sure that what's it called? Volt Switch is very hard to pull trick shots off, since it's, how do I say, it's more unique. Because I've seen clips where you can get unique, like very nice clips of Volt Switch, but though it's very hard to do such a thing. The reason why we have Zero this low is because it is still the last mon to be level 10 and level 12 upgrades, which is the most unfortunate thing possible for this thing. When Tencent did give the upgrades to Mamoswine, Gardevoir, and Garchomp, Zero was the only forgotten mon, all because it's a speedster. However, we're not going to cover this as much. We're just going to go briefly into it, saying that the PTS has announced that Zero Aura will be getting level 5 and level 7 moves, meaning the upgrades will also be brought down to level 11 and level 13, which is something it desperately needed for months, if not years now, considering its second anniversary coming up soon. So, yeah, as of right now, it's staying in C tier.
Yeah, unfortunate. But I will say though, the Zero Aura players that you do see rarely do pop off, but that's only probably gonna be a Masters. If you're in Vet or if you're in like the lower ranks, good luck. Best of wishes, I could say. That's just about it. And finally, we approach our last Amon, Zoroark. So Zoroark, we're gonna place for A tier. We're gonna run orange and white emblems as most of the attacking speedsters here. Physical attackers to be exact. Attack weight, Razor Claw, Scope Lens. You can I've seen Ao's cookie. Ooh, excuse me. I've seen Ao's cookie sometimes, and like the reason why you see Ao's cookie is because it correlates to the moveset of Cut and Night Slash. When you go for Cut, you recover a little bit of HP, and I guess that's kind of like what the idea was, is that you cut and then you can get more HP back as well, and like increases your max HP, so you can kind of it kind of scales sort of with it, but depending on the situation. Night Slash was the basically with this combo of Cut and Night Slash, you get a super fast dash plus some recovery, like I mentioned before. Then your other move is Feint Attack and Shadow Claw. It will hinder the opponents, leaving them unable to act. Plus reduces a cooldown and can be used similar to that of an eject button, because it's in a sense like Zero Aura's a Volt Switch, where you can just like dash in, and then if you choose to hit the button again, you can dash back out like a boomerang essentially. And your Unite move just deals damage and you're basically immune to hindrances. There wasn't actually much to Unite move. I actually looked at it carefully. It's not like it like ignores defense. It just like it's just 3 blasts within the circle. Yeah. Nothing else. Nothing too spectacular.
It's honestly the most straightforward, basic bitch move possible. That's that's the way you could really put it for Zoroark's Unite move. Sorry, I almost said Zero Aura. Zoroark is very very annoying to go up against. Its early game is frightening. It can still pull it off in the late game. It just becomes a bit more harder in comparison to some mons in this list. I think this might be one of the better mons that you don't have to run eject button, or actually one of the very few speedsters, sorry, that you don't need to run eject button with, because most of its moves do go towards your target. You still can move towards your target afterwards once you get the execution kill in. So that's a great thing. Has a lot of mobility as well. Yeah, illusion. I mean, it's kind of bait, but at the same time, it kind of isn't. Having unstoppable for like a split second is nice, but what are you really gonna do about it? Let's be honest here. You can really do nothing with that. It's basically you're just better off just having it should ninja doll. Now that that's out.
Yeah.
But,
I actually want to try that out, to be honest.
I think it's a bit, it's available at AOS tickets, so it's like 4K AOS tickets. So I think you should be good.
I'll maybe go back to Zorak though. But even though like we do mention how like it's like not spectacular, it in reality it actually is. You more or less have to see the gameplay of Zorak players pop off, because when they do, they do. It's just the unite move. Like that's the only like real, and maybe like its ability too. It's like kind of like not really spectacular. It's kind of like let me think, who's like Talonflames unite, and actually no, just Talonflames unite. Like you just push people back, but in this situation you just like burst energy. That's it.
I would say it's more like Zera's in a way. Actually no, actually Leafeon has like a very similar one to Zorak's. The only difference is Leafeon is better just because it's a bigger radius, and not only that, Leafeon scales to how close they are to the center. So like if they're dead center, Leafeon is like almost OHKOing, if not is OHKOing. Zorak does not scale towards how much damage it does towards how far you are. And it's a pretty small radius as well. So yeah, I think that's all for that's all the speedsters.
That's all.
I will say this, just to end it off. Speedsters in general was very tricky in our opinions, because we were talking about this before. We wasn't sure how to rank this, considering that speedsters you don't really need. I like to say that. Yeah,
you get like literally like they may like the lowest one we may have is C tier, but like, and the highest one is S, but like in the end you really don't need a speedster. I mean, maybe Leafeon, but or Zorak, but like the other 5, like they're not necessary like at all. Like you're better off just probably running an attacker, like a support, or please run a defender at that point. Like to be honest, like hell, I'll take a fucking Greedent over like a speedster, not gonna lie. Like if I have a jungler out, like essentially if you don't have a jungler, then you can get away with running a speedster, because that's what they're only made for essentially. Laning is fine, but laning is very 50-50 because you get your moves kind of late essentially for certain Pokemon here. So yeah, that's the thing. Like you have to be 5, and like by the time your jungler comes down to help your lane, you're only like level 4 at best, and 5 is when the speedster shines. So like really again, no point really in laning with a speedster, but we rank them high because they are very good Pokemon overall.
I mean, it only does help because speedsters are meant to play in the jungle, and usually always during the first clear they should be getting to level 5. So unless someone takes something, then okay, yeah, it's whatever. But though if you're playing like anything that isn't level 5 base, so like if you aren't playing Leafeon, you're fine if someone takes your farm. If you play anything level 5, or if you play Zoro, you're basically just screwed if someone takes your farm.
Exactly.
On accident or on purpose, yeah. But like with speedsters, like you don't have to have every team. Like Leafeon, okay, 75% of the team you could use it, but if that's the case, you could honestly just run another attacker or an all-rounder to substitute that position. All-rounder more for the fact that if you guys are missing that bulk, like if your team is already frail as it is, like you're running like 3 attackers, you only have 1 tank, just go the all rounder just to play that jungle role. I mean, most all around, like every all rounder, as far as I'm aware of, is level 5 base. So you get either your first evolution or your first moves right off the bat. And you're good to jungle still. Like you can still do what a jungler does, what a speedster should do. You're just a bit more bulkier. You may be a bit slower, sure, and not that much mobility, but at the end of the day, you're still helping your team. It may help your team. It may save your team comp just a little bit, just because of the bulk. Besides that, oh yeah, I guess we should go into attacker side of things too. Like attackers generally deal more damage, has a better damage output. Some may not have that mobility. The only few ones that could probably live up to the speedster role would be something like a Greninja or Cinderace, even Dragapult.
Yeah.
Delphox even once it reaches level 8. Yeah, level 8 when it gets flame charge. Yeah, like there's very few mons that don't really like have that mobility, or that can match the ability of a speedster, but can just output damage as an attacker and do more than a speedster. So it's a pretty niche role in a way, but it's just hard to really go up against. So to like put into your team, like where do you find that balance? So it's like, okay, maybe our team can use a speedster, or when can our team use that? What can our team use that isn't a speedster but can definitely help out the team? Like, where do you go from there? You know what I mean? Like, it's just very hard. Like, speedsters in general is just like a nutty position that they're in.
Yeah, they really are. So like at the end of the day, like we're gonna reiterate, speedsters, do you need them? Not really, to be honest. But that's all the speedsters though, so do what you like. Do some testing, do some practice, and you know, if you feel comfortable, try it. Just don't run 2 speedsters on the same team either, because that fucks things up even more.
Yeah, 100% actually.
That's gonna wrap up the video, so hopefully y'all have a good morning, afternoon, evening, and or night, wherever you are, wherever it may be, and we will see you all in the next one.